The 1955 Atlantic hurricane season was, at the time, the costliest season ever recorded, just ahead of the previous year. The hurricane season officially began on June 15th, 1955, and ended on November 15th, 1955. It was an extremely active season in terms of accumulated cyclone energy, but slightly above average in terms of tropical storms, with 13 recorded tropical storms. The first storm, Atlas, had persisted since December 30th, 1954. But we're not counting it. This is the name list for the season. It includes Alice, Brenda, Connie, Diane, Edith, Flora, Gladys, Hilda, Ione, Janet, Katie, Linda, Martha, Nellie, Orva, Peggy, Queena, Rosa, Strella, Trudy, Ursa, Verna, Wilma, Xenia, Yvonne, and Zelda. Let's begin with one of the most important storms of the season, Hurricane Connie. A tropical wave developed into a tropical depression east of Cabo Verde on August 3rd. After 6 hours, it strengthened into T.S. Connie. By August 4th, it began to rapidly strengthen, becoming the first major hurricane of the season later that day. Initially, it posed a threat to the Lesser Antilles, although it passed about 50 miles to the north. The outer ray bands produced intense precipitation, reaching 8.65 inches in Puerto Rico. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, 3 people died due to the hurricane, and a few homes were destroyed. In Puerto Rico, Connie destroyed 60 homes that caused trop damage. After affecting Puerto Rico, Connie turned to the northwest, reaching peak winds of 140 miles per hour. The hurricane weakened while slowing and turning to the north, and struck North Carolina August 12th as a Category 2 hurricane. Connie produced strong winds, high tides, and heavy rainfalls that moved the shore, causing crop damage, 27 deaths in the state of North Carolina. Connie made a second landfall in Virginia as it progressed inland, until dissipating inland on August 15th near Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Connie is noted as being the only hurricane in recorded history to strike Michigan/the Great Lakes region as a tropical storm. 4 people were killed in Washington, D.C. due to a traffic accident. In Cheapside Bay, Connie capsized a boat, killing 14 people and prompting a change in Coast Guard regulation. There were 6 deaths each in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and 11 deaths in New York, where record rainfall flooded homes and subways. At least 25,000 people lost power during the storm. Damage in the United States totaled around 86 million, although the range for Connie was a prelude to flooding by Diane. Diane originated in a tropical wave. First, there was a tropical depression on August 7th between the Lesser Antilles and Cabo Verde. The storm moved generally to the west-northwest, intensifying into a tropical storm on August 9th. By the time the Weather Bureau classified the storm on August 10th, Diane was just south of the Bermuda High, a semi-permanent ridge in the jet stream, just east of Nova Scotia. Ships in the region of the storm reported winds of 45 miles per hour. During the next day, hurricane hunters reported no increase in strength, and Diane remained initially disorganized. The storm interacted with Hurricane Connie to its northwest, and the process known as the Fujiwara effect, in which Diane turned to the north. Quick intensification occurred, potentially through interaction with the cold core low that increased atmospheric instability. On August 12th, the storm rapidly intensified into a hurricane. The intensification was such quick that the ship sailed east of the center believed that Diane was undergoing a loop due to a steady drop in barometric pressure, despite moving away from the hurricane. At its peak, Diane developed a well-defined eye about 30 miles in diameter, described by reconnaissance aircraft that's taking the shape of an inverted teacup. The strongest winds were located into the northeast quadrant, where there was a secondary pressure minimum northeast of the eye. After moving to the north for about a day, Diane resumed its westward motion on the 13th, after hurricanes to the northwest had weakened. That day, Diane reached its lowest pressure of 969 millibars and peak wind of 105 miles per hour. Originally, the hurricane was analyzed to reach peak winds of 120 miles per hour, although the large size and slow forward speed suggest slower winds. It remained at peak winds for about 12 hours, after which it weakened due to cooler air in the region. By August 15th, the eye became poorly defined and winds considerably weakened. As it approached land, its center deteriorated, with minimal precipitation near the center. The eye was observed on a radar installed in July 1955. On August 17th, Diane made landfall on the coast of North Carolina, near Wilmington. Pressure at landfall was estimated at 986 millibars, accompanied by winds just under hurricane intensity. Diane struck the state only 5 days after Hurricane Connie struck the same general area. Diane quickly weakened as a tropical storm of the mountainous terrain of central North Carolina. The associated area of precipitation expanded and spread away from the center to the north and northwest, but the weakening system turned to the north and recurved towards the northeast through Virginia as a Wild Ridge Belton from the west. It did not interact much with the non-tropical westerly. As a result, it maintained a distinct tropical cyclone over the land. The wind passed through the mid-Atlantic states, exiting New Jersey on August 19th to the Atlantic Ocean southeast of New York City, paralleling the southern coast of New England. The storm either accelerated east-northeastward, becoming extratropical on the 21st, passing southeast of Newfoundland. The remnants Diane accelerated and re-strengthened slightly while moving to the northeast. August 23rd, the storm dissipated between Greenland and Iceland. A tropical wave developed into a tropical depression early on September 10th. Well located mainly between Cabo Verde and the Lesser Antilles. After 6 hours, the depression strengthened into Tropical Storm Ione. Eventually, it turned to the northwest at 000 US UTC on September 15th. Ione reached hurricane intensity while situated north of the Leeward Islands. It continued to deepen while moving northwest. The storm reached Category 4 intensity with maximum sustained winds of 140 miles per hour and a minimum barometric pressure of 938 millibars early on September 18th. At midday the following day, it made landfall near Wilmington, North Carolina, as Category 2 hurricane. Shortly after moving inland over eastern North Carolina, Ione weakened to a tropical storm. Late on September 19th, Ione reemerged into the Atlantic Ocean near Norfolk, Virginia. The storm quickly re-strengthened early on September 20th, but transitioned to an extratropical cyclone on September 21st. Strong winds, heavy rainfall, and abnormally high tides lashed some areas of the east coast of the United States, especially North Carolina. On Cherry Point, sustained winds reached 75 miles per hour, with gusts over 107 miles per hour. Overall, damage was slightly more than 88 million, mostly to crops and agriculture. Rainfall of the state peaked at 16.63 inches in Maysville. Storm surge in North Carolina peaked at 5.3 feet in Wrightsville Beach. As a result, several coastal roadways were flooded, including a portion of Highway 94 and Route 264. 7 deaths were reported in North Carolina. The remnants of Ione brought gusty winds to Atlantic Canada, with broken poles, uprooted trees, and interrupted telephones service. Damaged chimneys and caused power outages, especially to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Hurricane Janet was the most powerful tropical cyclone of the season, and one of the most strongest Atlantic hurricanes on record. The hurricane forms from the tropical wave east of the Lesser Antilles on September 21st, moving towards the west across the Caribbean Sea. Janet fluctuated in intensity, but generally strengthened before reaching its peak intensity as a Category 5 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale, with winds of 175 miles per hour. The intense hurricane made landfall at that intensity near Chetumal, Mexico, on September 28th. Janet's landfall is a Category 5 hurricane on the Yucatan Peninsula. Janet's landfall is a Category 5 hurricane on the Yucatan Peninsula marked the first recorded incidents that a storm of such intensity made landfall on the continental mainland, with all previous storms making landfall as a Category 5 hurricane making landfall on islands, such as the Labor Day hurricane in 1935, which made landfall in the Florida Keys. After weakening to Category 2 over the Yucatan Peninsula, it moved into the Bay of Campeche and remained mostly unchanged in intensity before making its final landfall near Veracruz on September 29th. Janet quickly weakened over Mexico's mountainous terrain before dissipating on September 30th. In its developmental stages near the Left Antilles, Janet caused significant damage to the island chain, resulting in 189 deaths and $7.8 million in damages to the Grenadines and Barbados. While Janet was in the Central Caribbean Sea, a reconnaissance aircraft flew into the storm and was lost, with all 11 crew members believed perished. This was the only such loss that has occurred in association with an Atlantic hurricane. Category 5 upon landfall on the Yucatan Peninsula, Janet caused severe devastation in areas on Quintana Roo and British Honduras. Only 5 buildings in Chetumal, Mexico remained intact after the storm. An estimated 500 deaths occurred in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo. Janet's second landfall near Veracruz, significant river flooding ensued, worsening effects caused by Hurricanes Gladys and Hilda earlier in the month. The floods left thousands of people stranded and killed. At least 326 people killed. The flood damage would lead to the largest Mexican relief operation ever executed by the United States. At least 1,023 deaths were attributed to Hurricane Janet, as well as $65.8 million in damages.